where there was this national exam that went across all high schools to kind of, I don't know, I guess an aptitude test or to show which high school is the best at chemistry. And it wasn't mandatory, so I didn't really study for it. I was going through teenage stuff at the time too, and he kept saying, study, study. I said, no, 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 I'm busy. And when the test came, I was sitting in the class, and I looked down on it, and immediately I was like, I don't know anything here. I'm embarrassment. And he knew I didn't study, and he comes into the class halfway through. I'm there with my head on the desk, and I took my shoes off, so I don't know why. And he comes in, and he picks up my shoe. He takes the test off my desk, crumples it up, puts it in my shoe, squirts it with water, and then throws it off the third-floor balcony. Yeah. And I was so mad. I was so mad. But thinking back on it, well, I couldn't really tell, was he protecting me from, the inevitability of me doing poorly on this test, or was he protecting the school's reputation? I don't actually know, but I see it as protective. He knew I wasn't able for it, and my name just wasn't there when they marked it. And I was thinking about that recently. I was happy about it. Everyone here, and all the stories, they're what you think, people feel for your father. It's not, he was good and I'm in chemistry now, or I'm doing this. It was, and people quoted, he saw me. He made me feel like I was his favorite student, even though you're not Hussam or Patrick Kim. And he would say, people would say that he held up a mirror to them of the best parts of themselves. And it's weird when you hear that, because by all accounts, he was so dumb. He was so, he couldn't make a sandwich. All he did was watch Judge Judy, and people suing people over broken toasters. He could never use he or she properly. Never. But he used chemistry as a medium to kind of, instill this confidence in people. And when you looked at him from the outside, he was just a goofy child, always. So he was an interesting guy. This is awesome. So I guess I'd say there's this belief in Greek culture that 40 days after someone dies, for the 40 days, I have to have a neat up front too. More of that, please, more distraction. So someone's spirit after they dies will roam for 40 days, and they will visit places that they would have been, and they'll visit loved ones. So after the 40 days, they would be, in front of God at the gates of heaven to have their soul or their worth weighed based on the prayers and opinions of their loved ones. And, we have 300 people here, and I would like to hear, if I can, a round of applause for him to shake the gates of heaven so he can spend eternity bumping into students in Promenade Mall and squirting people and doing all this nonsense that made people love him. So could I ask a round of applause for him, please? That's hard. So, please come up and tell a story. It's only as hard as you think it is, in front of everyone. But that's what today is meant to be about, is just drop by. And, one of those weird ones that would have got anyone fired, just tell it. The more racist, the better, to be honest. Oh, I'll leave you with one last story that I wanted to say. Who here, thank you, baby. Who here has been called bird brain before? My whole life, bird brain. Do you know where it comes from? And this is kind of my dad in a nutshell. And a few students actually remember, there was one point where he printed a roll of stickers, it was gray with white writing, that had bird brain. And he would mark people's tests, either pass or bird brain. And so I was staying with his father for a period, and I heard the story that my dad, when he was a young boy in Athens, he had a pet bird that he loved and adored, and he let it out of its cage, thinking it would fly around like he had hoped a bird would, and it immediately flew into a window and killed itself. And from that point on, as a 6-year-old, he's like, birds are stupid. And he used his childhood trauma as a term of endearment to call people bird brain. So that's where that comes from. And so I'll leave you with that. Thank you, everyone, for coming. A special thank you has to go to Rachel. Honestly, yeah. Like, he went through a lot at the end there, and ALS was, the final destination movie saga where it just kept trying to come and get him. And with support from Rachel and people like Rachel who all loved him, thanks, we were able to keep him at home, and he couldn't have been happier. And if you could see from some of the slideshows, the lesson that I feel, has taught me that will forever remain with me, it's not once through all of this did he ever get angry or withdraw or give or go, oh, woe is me. He was always smiling when there was nothing to be smiling about. And he was happy as long as we knew 2 fingers meant fuck you. The 1 finger look up smile meant you're gay. And as long as he could communicate that to me, he was happy. And that's something that I will strive to for the rest of my life in terms of being happy in such turmoil with so little. I never saw my dad that way. And in his final years, that's all I saw. So, thanks again. Kill myself now.
So we got,
Hello.
I never had
Hi.
the privilege of having him as a teacher, but he was in the school. He was in the school.
Introduce yourself?
Sorry, my name's Jonathan Burr. I was here from 90 to 94.
His claim to fame is the twin brother thing.
We always saw him in the hallway. He always had the very famous, he used to smack everyone in the back of the back of the head. His silly string was everywhere. I don't know how the caretakers never yelled at him for that.
I don't know why. Neither of us even had him as a teacher, and we know him.
Exactly.
He actually knew us too. He actually knew us by first names, and we never, ever had him as a teacher.
This is my daughter, Alyssa. She was here from,
So I graduated in 2021, and I never had him as a teacher as well. He wasn't a full teacher here when I was
He was a
here,
supply.
but he came back very often as a supply teacher, and I was very lucky to have him as a supply teacher, most often for science. And they didn't have him as a teacher, but he remembered him so much to the point where one day I walked into class. My professor wasn't there that day, but Mr. Naxakis was our supply teacher. I walked in, he's taking attendance, and he sees my last name on the attendance sheet. And he's like, "Who's Burr?" where is this girl? And he's looking for me around the room. I raised my hand just to say I'm here. Didn't think anything.
Am I in trouble?
Honestly, I didn't know what happened, but he recognized my name, and he made it so clear, where is she? Like this last name, Alyssa Bear. And then she's like, Jonathan, you're the twins' daughter. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, which one? So we ended up talking for a good while. We didn't do much science that day. We just talked. But he's like, how are they doing? How is their father? How is the company? How is everything after high school? But no, I just filling them in. And he's like, oh, they're such troublemakers. And I remember them in high school. Are you anything like them? So, yeah, every time I had him as a teacher, and even as a supply teacher, and even when he wasn't for my class, he always seemed to be found. He always found me in the halls. He'd always call me Jonathan's girl, bird daughter, something of those sorts. And with the silly string, one day he was my supply teacher for a test. We had a test scheduled, and he brought in silly string. So that only happened once, the silly string in my class, but he would spray silly string. So we were all sitting there writing a test, and all of a sudden there's silly string just on our faces.
It's a can with like foamy string that come out, and he always did it in the hall over the edge on the 3rd floor.
I think it was for my class. If we weren't looking at the paper, you'd get silly string on you. So I remember that one. He would tell me stories about the rulers and about their class.
Oh, he used to smack the ruler on the desk.
He'd pay attention, and he'd smack down on the table, and that he used to go on and on about how much he loved the years that he spent here, the memories that he had, but I wish I had him as a science teacher. He was hilarious, but all good things.
I remember the Volkswagen bus.
All good things.
He used to have a Volkswagen, the van. The Volkswagen van.
Many, yeah.
Oh, that wasn't
That
him?
wasn't him? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, this is exciting. My name is Dan, and I was also studying under Dr. Naxakis. It was 2002, 2003, 2004. I remember my sister actually studied before me. She's 10 years older, and she really enjoyed his classes. She enjoyed them so much that when she decided to return back to Israel to volunteer for the Israeli Defense Forces, she actually sent him a picture of her saluting, and he always cherished that picture. And then when it was my turn to go to secondary school, she said, make sure you go to Dr. Naxakis. And
I thanked Stavros and Anna for my life, making my life much, much better in Halifax. You know, sometimes in a Sunday or something like that, he will go to Anna's dad's place and they will barbecue a lamb or something like that. He will call me and ask me, stupid, what are you doing? Are you home? And I said, oh, come over here. And I knew Anna's family, you know, Tasia and everybody, Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy is here as well. Oh my God, you look so different. And these people took me as their own family and treated like their own family. And if any of you know the funny side of Stavros, he's one of the deeply caring human beings I have ever come across. Thank you.
Really tall. Hi, my name is Danielle Moiros. I am the youngest of 3 kids to go here and who all had Dr. Nax as a teacher. So I came into grade 9 knowing exactly who he was. And so when he came into Sura's class and squirted everybody, I would very excitedly be like, that's him, that's Dr. Nax. And my sister would always say that one time he was helping her for like 20 minutes on a problem. And it wasn't until he finally walked away that she realized that he had slowly been pouring water into her pocket the entire time. When I left, I actually took one of his squirt bottles with me, which he said, you can only take the broken ones. And I said, well, if it's not broken, I'll make it broken. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this, but I had some problems in high school. And I had been accepted to McMaster, but I missed a bunch of classes and I wasn't sure how my grade average was doing. And so for my final exam, which I had to do a makeup test for, I was in his office writing it, and he said, so what grade do you need on this to stay with good standing with the school? And I said, I think I need a 78. He didn't check a single question on that test. He wrote 78, and he said, great job, and handed it back to me. I just remember thinking that he was a teddy bear with gears inside, which completely unassuming, but like a mad genius who could blow us up with 3 ingredients in any pantry or kitchen. And I remember distinctly one day, if he didn't want to talk to you or if what you were saying was boring him, he would just walk away mid-sentence. And or if you asked a question and he didn't feel like answering, he would just leave. And I just remember distinctly one day, 3rd floor, he's walking away from me, and I just yell after him. I'm like, stop walking away from me. I know you understand me. You have a PhD. To which he responded, that was my wife. And like, it's like, I don't speak English. It was all her. Which is how I found out he had a wife who worked at the school with us. When I graduated, I used to come back and visit him. I actually gave him a teddy bear that, you have it? So he used to just swear at us all the time. I say this with such fondness, it's so weird. But his favorite word, besides bird brain, was Malacca. So when I heard he was retiring, I made him a white teddy bear from Build-A-Bear, and I recorded it saying Malacca. And I handed it to him, and he just pressed it and started doing his And even when I was gone, I would come back and visit, and I had a friend who unfortunately went to Westmount, but she needed help with her chemistry. And I said, cool, come to my high school. We'll go see Dr. Nax. And she's like, why on earth would this man help me? I go to a different school. And I was like, no, it's fine. Dr. Nax will help you. So Dr. Nax spent half an hour with her after school one day, helping her. And Anna was in the car waiting. And even when we were in university and we had problems with chemistry, we would come back here and she's like, well, he won't even remember me. I'm like, oh, I'm not even in the city. Go visit him by yourself. It's fine. She went to Dalhousie, so he liked her. And so he never stopped teaching or swearing, and it was my favorite. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gus Chimapis. I'll make this real quick. I still teach here. I taught with Stavros for several years. A quick basketball story. We had a rivalry game against a coach that I didn't really like too much. And so I'm happy you said the word Malacca because I was kind of scared to say it because I still work here, but I'm going to say it now. So on the roster, I put the word Malacca and followed by O-P-O-U-L-O-S on this guy's roster. And for whatever reason, Stavros came to the game that day, which he didn't really come to watch the basketball games. And he's like, this guy's named Malacca, eh? So fast forward, it went to all the Greek people because there was a lot of Greek teachers here back in the day. And it went to Fraser Scott. I think I saw Fraser, the vice principal, or is it way in the back there? And I got reprimanded for using that word. And it was because of Stavros. I got a note in my file. And I went to Stavros and I said, Stavros, you got me in trouble today. He goes, you're Malacca. That's why you got in trouble. And that was my Stavros story. And it was all in great fun. And I miss him.
Okay, so I had Nax during his last year of teaching. So unfortunately, I didn't have him for grade 12, but that's okay. So Nax has given me a lot of fond memories. So every time I asked him a question, he would tell me to go to the sped teacher. He gave me the exact room. And then I walked into her room, and then I was like, Nax sent me here. And like, you're supposed to help me with this apparently. And then he told me, he's like, tell Nax to come down as well. And there was one time I didn't pay the AP fee on time. It was like a $5 fee. And then he called out everyone who didn't pay. He called them all poor. Then right when it came to my name, he said, I'm poor and brown. Nax was the only teacher who was capable of trolling me, because I'm sure like a lot of teachers here are sick of me because I basically trolled almost all of you. Sorry about that. And now all of a sudden, like, Nax is suddenly popping up in my research because I had to do some chemistry. So like, for some context, I'm currently studying at York University a master's degree in electrical engineering. And on top of that, part-time, I lecture at Seneca and I teach math for chemistry students. So I guess Nax is just everywhere in my life now. And Nax has left a mark on me that I'll never forget, and I'm very grateful for it.
So, like Aaron, I had Nax in grade 11. I also have a lot of fun memories. Because of Nax, I won the 2014 chem competition. I came first in VSS, and that eventually led me to pursue chemical engineering in university, and a career decision I'm still very proud of. I guess one of the fondest memories I have is Nax couldn't tolerate people coming late to class. So if you came late to class, he'd get out his wash bottle and he'd point it at you and be like, Malaka, why are you late? And unless you gave him a legitimate reason, like doctor's appointment, something like that, he would spray you. So one time, I don't know, this girl came about 30, 40 minutes late to class. He takes the water bottle. Why are you late? He's like, Nax, please don't bother me. I had a really rough morning. So Nax looks close to her face. He's like, you put on makeup to class? You are late because of makeup? Sprays the whole face sprays her in the face, and yeah, I guess the makeup goes all over the place. So one time the tides got turned. We had a test and he came late to class. So I went behind his desk, I grabbed his water bottle, and the minute he entered, I'm asking, Malaka, why are you late? And he says, you spray me, you are dead man, okay? I took that threat very seriously, so I put the water bottle down and I sat and started writing my test, and Nax goes walking around and be like, you are tsitzing? Why are you tsitzing? He goes into the back row, and I guess there's a student who's not very attentive in class, and he says, you are tsitzing off of Austin? Haha, good luck. And at the end, he takes the wash bottle, he opens it up and dumps it on my head. I told him, Nax, I didn't spray you, what gives? Doesn't matter, only I can ask, why are you late?
My name is Muiling Tay. I had Dr. Nax in AP Chemistry grade 12. I was in the same class as Dan and Oren, and Dr. Nax had a very interesting way of teaching. And I remember one of the earliest lessons about acids. So if anyone still remembers chemistry, concentration is inversely proportional to volume. You take the same amount of the acid, but if you pour more water into one, obviously the one with the larger volume will be the weaker acid. He uses this analogy comparing me, this small girl, with a big guy, calling us both weak acids. But of course, because the greater volume will be a weaker, so of course the big guy is weaker than me. Now, I was also an art student in the class, in a chemistry class. In my final year, I was painting a mural outside the gym. It's actually not there anymore, but I remember during that period, Nax would often visit me, like, Muiling, stop drawing on the wall and study chemistry. You're going to end up on the streets of Toronto drawing people's portraits. And this came up many times in class. There would be certain competitions or optional exams to write. He asked me if I'm going to join. In front of the whole class, he'll be asking different people, are you going to be writing this test? Are you going to be writing this test? Wheeling, are you going to be writing this test? I'm like, well, I don't know. He's like, oh, it's very easy, just 20 multiple choices. You'll do fine if you just study and stop drawing on the wall. But it was a lot of good times despite our differences. I like chemistry, don't get me wrong. I am also very passionate about art. And there were a lot of times I come in from chemistry class after my painting class with a paint palette. And sometimes he likes to open that paint palette and goes around and puts people's fingers in it. And I actually think that the fact that I was an art student in his class made the class more interesting, and the fact that a chemistry teacher can appeal to an art student also proves that he was a great chemistry teacher. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Boswell, and grew up in the court at Clover Hill Court in Maple, and we've been neighbors since 2000, and the court hasn't been the same without him. So how can I say Stavros? He's a really big part in our life. The court hasn't been the same since you all moved from there, but there's so many funny stories, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say some of them. But he was a big part of that whole court, and their whole family. Everyone they touch on
the cigarettes. Tell about the cigarettes. And
the cigarette.
butts.
Okay, the
Yes,
cigarette
this
butts.
One, this one.
My husband Severio, he really misses Stavros when you guys moved, because every night they go out talking, and anything from business or anything that's happened with school, anything. And we have a nice little flower pot and another one at the side and everything. And all the time there'd be cigarette butts in there, because that's where Stavros would put them, right? Now, I never smoked. And so my son Adam, he, was school, learned not to smoke this and that. And he said, Mom, are you smoking? Because there's cigarette butts there. So I got blamed for that. Another time, Stavros, when he fell, it was icy, and he was outside having his normal smoke. But he was so excited because the cigarette didn't break. His wrist broke, but the cigarette stayed up there. Yeah, I saved the cigarette. And then we've had a few little emergencies in the neighborhood. One time I wasn't home, and the court is like our family. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. And it's so my husband, stop. Okay, Pusti, I hear you.
Yeah.
Because he used to teach me Pusti, Malacca, and all these things. And I'm Maltese, and he said, that's not an island. That's not a country, it's a little dot. But anyways, back to the, Savad had cut his head, and I wasn't home, so they went to emergency. And I remember Sav was saying they're in emergency, Stav was there, we all stuck together if something went on. And Stavros goes to the doctor, hey, listen, he's a movie star. He's going to be a model, so make sure you stitch him up right, But on another time, our neighbor, Danny, because we live one house apart from each other, and our neighbor's house there, and our other neighbors are there. Danny ended up moving in, and the people who moved out from before, I guess they didn't cover a gas line. And so all of a sudden we get a call in the night from the fire department, you guys have to get out of the house. So we had to evacuate. And so I went to the neighbors. They went to Rita and Phoebus, and you went to the other neighbor. We went to the neighbors. And then Stavros is talking to the firefighter with Sav, and he says, hey, you think I can have a cigarette? and the firefighter looks at Severio. Is he for real? He goes, he's a PhD in chemistry. He goes, okay. He went up this court all the way up the street to have his cigarette. But he's just so goofy and cute. But we had a lot of street parties, and we went to Blue Mountain one time. Remember when the kids, when Rita and them were small, and Stavros, he's just with brown people, this, that, and Sav and Mertz and them were going to go to the water, and And he goes, oh, you have a little hair in your back. You Italians are hairy, right? Then he takes off his shirt and he rocks in there. And I always thought of Stavros as a big teddy bear. Well, now I know. He was so hairy. And he went to the water, and we were just laughing. Like, he just makes you laugh. And we love you. We love all you. He's going to live on. The whole court miss. It's not the same. And one last thing. When Anna and Stavros moved from the court, they always had this snowman. And it's a snowman this high, and it says, welcome. And ever since you moved, that's the first thing Sav puts out for Christmas. And we call it Stavros Snacks. And this year, our family came at Easter, and they had said, it was on the Good Friday of the weekend, they said, you haven't even left the statue out for so long, right? And he just took it out last week, but for some reason he didn't have a chance. But it's like Stavros is looking out at the court like usual.
Yes, he's there.
Anyways, we love you. He's touched all our neighbors' hearts. And the court hasn't been the same without you guys there, but we'll have all the memories. And rest in peace, Stavros. Love you. Stelios and Rita, you're all part of us, and he lives on. Okay, I love you, Anna. Come by the court
I am
anytime.
coming. I will
Fine.
come, okay? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gilad. I'm Stelios' best friend, and maybe I'm his best friend too, I don't know. But I was the best man at his wedding in Ireland, so I have a unique experience with Stel's dad, as I called him. First of all, I wasn't his student, so I never heard this term bird brain, but he did call me Crow Boy for some reason, and now I'm thinking about it, it was like a elevated version of bird brain. So it's really nice. I feel really honored to be the Crow Boy to him. If you don't, like, everyone knows him here, obviously, but if you heard all these stories, he's clearly a racist, but I was thinking about this term maybe I shouldn't say it, maybe it's a sign. He was an innocent racist. He was an innocent racist, which I think isn't... Maybe that's him saying, shut the fuck up, boy. Like, I don't know. Crow boy. Okay.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see so many familiar faces, and just want to say thank you so much to the organizers of this event. To be able to commemorate Nax like this is really special. My name is Nilesh. Hussam and I decided to come up here to just share a couple of words. Nothing really put together. I didn't have a chance to think of anything ahead of time. But Nax had a huge impact on me personally. He was someone, I don't know if anyone knows, but for the longest time, so we attended high school here 20 years ago. And for several years, he was a student council support person. So Vidya and the team, many of us, like he kind of was really integrated into not just teaching at the chemistry classes, but to support all student activities. And like very much due to him, I kind of got involved in that process. He was very inspiring and very supportive of the students, obviously in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And he even taught my older sister, who is here 5 years ahead of myself, and she used to tell me about him when I was still in elementary school. And I'll share a story that she had where he would sit 4 of them together, and he used to call them the quarter brain group. So each of them contributed 1 quarter and then made 1 brain altogether. And I'm pretty sure we ended up having a super soaker battle by the end of the year because to retaliate, for all the times that he sprayed us throughout the years. But he was deeply supportive on a personal level. He attended our wedding. He attended our graduation as well. Hussam and I ended up carrying on for further studies, and we graduated, and he actually came to that, which was really touching that he would take that extra time and just he inspired me. I remember specifically the idea that there was someone who could be a doctorate, to me, coming in as a young student, the fact that he was a doctor or something and he was teaching us was so inspiring. And I really idolized him in terms of how intelligent he was, not just the way he interacted so lovingly with all of us. I remember his hands. Like, he used to have these like stocky hands, right? And sometimes you would kind of just hold your hand and it would be uncomfortable, but he would just like make a joke about it or somehow, But he was a very affectionate person. And in some way or another, I think he really made you feel special as a student. He was just deeply touching. His impact is, I think, obviously multi-generational and huge, and I just want to say thank you to his family. Thank you for putting together such kind words, and it was nice to hear today so many of the stories outside of school, outside of the four walls of this school. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hussam Abdul Qadir. I graduated from Vaughan in 1999. I haven't been here, I think, since a long time, and it's a trip to be back here and to kind of think that the reason that brings me here is probably like the most influential part of about my being here. It's funny, like people describe Stavros. People talk about the big burly, hairy guy, big arms. People use the word teddy bear to describe him a lot. I still haven't wrapped my mind around the fact that he's passed, and I think the vision's sort of been changing in my mind, but I think most recently the vision that I've sort of carried in my mind of him was as a butterfly. And you say, how do you think about Stavros as a butterfly? But it's because I think some of you have seen the movie The Butterfly Effect. And I think sort of in that way, like Stavros was the butterfly in my life. So I joined Vaughan in 97, and at that time I was 16. I was raised by a very strong family before coming here, but first 2 years in life here were very hard. Very hard.
I've never had a brother, but there's two people, and I alluded to. Patrick and Hussam are the ones that I heard about in my household as if they lived there. And Hussam's family became very close with our family and all their siblings, and I've always idolized you and looked up to you almost because my dad did so much. So I just wanted to give you a second there. And it's a weird thing to be back here because I've been away for so long. But it's hard to explain how close my dad was to Hussam. It was not weird. It was unique. Really, 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 really unique. And I took a back seat to him, which is fine. I was good at other stuff. I wasn't a nerd who fucking did chemistry Olympians and all this stupid shit. But no, would you continue on?
Well,
I really want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So it's strange, like I never really felt racism as a black man until I came here. I didn't, not Vaughan specifically, but just being in Canada. And, my family raised me and all my siblings with pretty high ambitions about where we wanted to get to in life. But it kind of didn't take long before, I started to question what my place was going to be in life, where I was going to be. And I think Stavros saw that. And, he never sort of told me the full story, but he did hint at the fact that, at the earlier phases in his life, he perhaps didn't get as far as he was meant or should have deserved to get to because of the effects of racism that he had as a Greek man at the time that he came here. So it's kind of the strangest thing in the world, but, like my strongest advocate against racism was a Greek man that was 3 times my age. But he really but I think it was sort of in that context that he took me under his wing. Like he saw something in me at a time when I didn't think I had it. People spoke about the fact that he used chemistry to help people find themselves. Kind of didn't really care much for equations or or bonds or that. But, you know, I wanted to spend time with him. And he used that as a tool to help me find myself, but then also, and he kind of was very strategic about this, but he told me you need to show objective evidence of your ability that people can't take away from you. And that's sort of how, you know, I sort of got involved into doing the chemistry stuff, you know, the chemistry competitions, which he helped me win twice. And he put me in a position to actually join, it sounds the nerdiest thing I've ever done, but something called the Chemistry Olympics. Like I actually was chosen out of 4 people in Canada to go to Thailand and participate in something called the Chemistry Olympics. And I think back at that moment because I think that was the first time I actually felt Canadian. I think it was sort of when he put me in that stage. Like Stavros said, his relationship was not just with me. Like, you know, the Naxakis family became very good friends of my family. And just like, you know, Stavros did this such a big effect with me, you know, your family actually played a big part into helping my family feel comfortable here in Canada and feel integrated. And although it may not be sort of so obvious and so tangible, the success that all my siblings have had really translates to the fact that you helped us visualize how we could thrive and prosper. Once again, it's the craziest thing. Like, how could a Greek family make a group of, like, you know, Black Sudanese immigrants feel comfortable in Canada? But that's what you did. And, you know, to this day, like, you know, I and my family kind of hold you in the highest regard. You know, I'm very cognizant of the fact that, second to my parents, I don't really think there's anyone that has had the impact in my life that Stavros has. I'll forever be grateful to him, and I'll forever be grateful to the family. And yeah, I can't believe he's gone. But, you know, I think, you know, he clearly touched a lot of people while he's here. I think that's all that we can hope for while we're here. Yeah, thank you everyone for everything.
Showing me up to here.
Yeah, sorry for ruining the mood.
Yeah,
Hello, everybody. So far, we heard from the English interaction of Stavros Naxakis with the teaching and the community, of course. We are colleagues of Stavros Naxakis, but in a different perspective. We represent the Greek community and also the Greek schools, which means we taught Greek language as a second language to all Greek heritage, I guess, students, and not only. We taught many other nationalities as well. My name is Aphrodite Zervou, and this is Panagiotis Roussianos, my colleague. We didn't share any classrooms with Naxakis. Stavros was always a supervising principal to us. So we used to see him for advice, for sharing our things that happen in the classrooms. He was always, as I said to Anna and to Stelios, he was the friendly giant. He was a big posture with the heart of a little kid and a joker, but not, he was very brushed as a joker. He was very polite joker. Politically correct always, because Greek community can be mean if you're not. So he was aware of that. He always used to visit our classrooms. I used to teach grade 12 as well. And Panagiotis was grade 9, but anyway, he went to everybody's classrooms. So he was always still in our class time in order to preach the kids what they should do and what they shouldn't do and how they can achieve. And going further than that, would give them the career perspective as a dual language speaking teachers or speaking student or speaking whatever in their professional development, like if they were a lawyer or if they were a doctor, and how much they need a second language for them. So we had fond of memories because we have pictures with him, and also whenever you have a complaint or let's say something that bothers you here and there, he would say, oh, nothing, just keep moving. It'll find its way on its own. He will never take sides for anything. He was always said, it works well this way, no problems. So that was Stavros Naxakis, always smiling, giving us advice, and supporting each one of us every day. We were very proud of him. He was a jewel in the Greek community. He was very well educated. He had a beautiful family, always speaking about his pride, his kids. And of course, he was always saying, oh, if you have anything to say, where to meet and what to do, because we were out together socially, just call Anna. I don't know anything about it. She's in charge. So besides that, I will leave it to Panayotis because they were closest spending time together, and he has different memories from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is very difficult for me. I lost a brother. Stavros, for me, was the brother that I didn't have here in Canada. Of course, I have a brother in Greece. But indeed, I met Stavros in '93 while teaching Greek language for TDSB at the Eastern High School of Commerce. And ever since, we became friends. And we taught here at Vaughan for 16 years, unforgettable times. Even when I was transferred to Westmount, you know, there wouldn't be a day that we wouldn't talk over the phone or get together on a Saturday or Sunday and comment and, you know, have fun times. Like I say, he was an incredible man, always understanding, always joking. He had a way of relaxing anybody that was really stressed out by just cracking a joke, a very simple thing. And he did it with such a finesse and humor that you couldn't help but laugh and forget about all that bothered you. There's too many things, you know, that I can't go over, but very fun memories. I remember when we were down watching TFC at BMO Field with my friend Mark. Every time that TFC was conceding a goal, Stavros used to text us and used to say, Omadara. That means, such a great team, TFC, you know? Of course, at that time, we were on the losing end. Anyway, you know, I don't know, I have no more words to say. Like I say, it's very difficult. 3 nights ago, I saw him on my sleep, and he was smiling. And he brought us all together. This is what Stavros was, and still is in our hearts. Thank you.
If I can just interject in there quickly, I want to say that at Greek school, yes, he was the principal. He was teaching, but he became principal, and he would just walk the halls. Students would create problems in the classroom just to get kicked out so that they could be with Stavros in the hall. So he had a string of students, you know, like the mother duck and the ducklings. He had them, and he's a pacer, right? So he'd be pacing, and these boys would be pacing behind him. but he knew they needed time out. So he would give them the time, and he would go back and place each one back into the classroom. And the kids were quiet and settled, as if they had had their fix, Stavros fix. That was him at Greek school. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana, but Max always called me Diane, and who am I to correct him? So I graduated Vaughan in 2014, and I got very blessed with the privilege of having Max teach me up until grade 12. So in class, very often, I think many of us experienced where he would come up to you and take his water bottle and just put it on the nape of your neck while you're writing your test, and just look at your test and be like, just breathe really loudly in your shoulder. And he's like, what are you gonna write? And then you start writing a little bit, and he's like, what are you doing? And he just would spray so much water that you would leave class looking like you sweat through your exam, which you probably did, but you're also just drenched. And sometimes when you're just you're really messing this up, you are not writing this properly, he would smack you, be like, what are you doing, stupid boy? And take the pencil and show you during the test, this is how you're supposed to do it. What are you doing during your test? So, you could always finish the test because he will probably be there to tutor you during the actual assessment. During Vaughan, while I was at Vaughan, I wasn't a really good student because I was very busy with very important teenage things. I have no idea what they were, but probably very preoccupied. And because of that, I think I had zero study habits, as did many other people, but thanks to Nax and him always being there to support you and guide you through whatever it was, I ended up going to York for biology. And while I was there, I realized that chemistry in university is not chemistry in high school, and they're not gonna take the pencil out of your hand, and they're not gonna write the answer for you. They'll give you 11%, and you're gonna go home with 11%. Yeah, I once got 3% on a test. I didn't know they could give you that. Maybe they gave me bonus marks for my name. So I wasn't doing well, and I remember messaging Nax and being like, I am going to not pass through school, so what am I gonna do? And he helped me, and he always supported me, and I visited him many times after, where he would still continue spraying me with a bottle. I'm like, I'm not a student, you can't do this. And he's like, I don't care. So thanks to him, I was able to graduate, but I also learned to have almost audacity, where I would just kind of pursue endeavors that I'm like, I'm not qualified, but I feel like Nax would be like, just go for it. So I did my thesis there while I was at York, and I fully credit Nax to being able to do that. I wrote in my acknowledgements, this is thanks to Dr. Naxakis that I'm able to do this, that I had the privilege to continue falling in love with science, even though I wasn't a very good student. And when I published my research, I wrote his acknowledgements there as well. He was always there for everyone, I find, where after that, when I went to do my master's, I'm like, how am I going to continue this? And then I messaged him being like, Nax, I got into my master's at U of T, and I messaged him this is because of you. You are the reason I was able to stay in the field I loved. I loved science. I just didn't have study habits, I think, and he was the reason that I was able to continue there. And the reason I'm in my master's at U of T is because of Nax. I have to say that I owe that to him. And if we really recognize, if we look at the comments that people wrote on the GoFundMe, and if you just speak to anybody who knew Nax, you will recognize that so many people became doctors or PhD students and did such influential things because of him. So while he may not be here physically, his impact will always be here because he has done monumental things. He had a PhD. He could have done so many other things. With that, he could have been paid a lot of money to not be in a high school with students like me who had important teenage activities and been paid triple, quadruple, I'm sure, but he chose to dedicate his life to improve the community and future generations forever. And I don't know what you believe in for where we go after we pass, but I know that when Nax got there, they're like, you're Nax, straight to the top, straight to the top. Like the community that you have created, right to the top. Like we've heard about you for a while, and we're so blessed that you get a party with us now. So I'm very grateful to Nax and his family. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I just have a few quick stories to share. One thing I always found funny was after graduating high school and going to university and talking about, chemistry in chem class and working with other students, I would eventually get to telling them about my chem teacher from high school. And, I'm describing how he would soak students with a spray bottle and rest the entire weight of his belly on your back as he's talking to you and call you Greek swears. And you start to realize as you're describing all of it that I think we all have a collective Stockholm syndrome here. Because you realize how strange it is, but he somehow made it work. And it just, nobody questioned it. But one memory that I have of him was, most of the teachers here know that I was a little rowdy in class, and so he would spray me more than most students. But eventually I just stopped caring. I just stopped reacting to it. And so he needed a new way to get at me. And so in a brilliant move of psychological warfare, he started to go after my innocent straight-A student lab partner who I sat beside. And so anytime I would misbehave, he would soak her. And so I remember having to up the ante by sneaking a large panel of cardboard in my desk. And the moment he would try to spray her, I would quickly pull it out and try and block the stream. I also remember the time he was doing a demonstration of putting sodium into water, which detonates violently, right? And we keep egging him on to do a bigger and bigger piece, give us as big of an explosion as he legally can. And so he asked the class, he takes a big piece and he asks the class, this next demonstration's dangerous. Do you want Ty to do it? He goes, do you want me to do it so that I'm the one who gets taken out? My favorite memory, though, the one I'll leave off with, I'm not part of the Greek community, but even I could see how important the Greek identity was to Dr. Nax. He truly was an educator. He truly cared not just about grades and playing the system, but actually making sure that you learned chemistry. And but despite that side of him, there was this contradictory side where he was also at school teaching almost against his will. He'd rather be out mingling with students, mingling with the Greek community. He'd rather be out in the hallways, as other people have said. And I remember once, it was the start of the school day, the national anthem was playing. Everybody was, standing still, being respectful. And then Nax is just walking down the hallways, fiddling with, people's knapsacks, messing with their hair and stuff like that while they have to stand still and just take it. And Mr. Rusi was in the hall at the far end of it. And so he shouts out, Dr. Nax, what are you doing? It's the national anthem. You have to stand still. And then Nax, with his, barreling voice, no filter, yells as loud as he can across the hallway, what the hell do you care? You're Greek. And that's what I wanted to leave off with, so thank you.
My name is Samantha Dobsky. I graduated in 2013 with Ty. High school was always a very, very difficult experience for me, but Nax was one of the people that I looked forward to seeing the most, and he made my experience in high school bearable, to say the least, and enjoyable. I enjoyed myself most when I was in his class. And I did have accommodation needs, and so whenever we would have a test, Ty can attest to this, is he'd say, Samantha, go to your spot. which was in the room behind the chemical storage room. And so I would do my tests surrounded by chemicals, just chemicals everywhere, smelling them as I'm doing my test. But he was always very supportive, and I'm forever thankful for everything that he did for me. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Miss Luhar speaking. First of all, let me just say something before I start talking about Stavros. This woman is spectacular. What she has done for Stavros, and in exchange, what Stavros has done for everyone in this room is unmentionable. She was the woman behind the man, and she's still working for all of us. Right? Stories. I have so many. I'm going to try and keep it short though, because I'm sure a lot of people want to talk. But this all started first time I walked into this building. Back then, heads were able to be in the interviews with the principal, and my first day in this building was Stavros sitting there with the principal, and they were trying to figure out, this was 23 years ago. Walked in, had my interview. Stavros was the one who was asking me all the questions. Everything was quite formal, but he was eating a donut and there was powdered ice falling all over his chest while he's talking to me. And then at the end he said, well, it's a good name. Your name is Priti and you're okay looking. Imagine you weren't and that's your name.
In the interview.
In my interview, at the end of my interview, yes. And then the next day, I was doing an LTO at 16th Avenue Public School, and I got a phone call straight to my classroom, and it was Stavros, and he said, hi, it's Stavros. You remember me? And I'm like, yeah. I was in your interview. Yes. You got the job, but the principal has to call you and tell you. Don't tell him I told you.
Could never keep a secret. Never.
And then you said, don't accept another job, we want you. So, I mean, one thing led to another. I started teaching. I've been a biology teacher here ever since, but he always used to come into my classroom and say, well, you know, he would tell all my students, you know, why aren't you taking a real science? Because biology is not a science. What are you doing here? And then, you know, they just kept going on. The students think that they had, you know, all the squirting with the water bottle. There was one time, I'm not gonna go too far with this one, but my husband smokes, just like Stavros used to smoke, and I learned how to pickpocket cigarettes out of my husband's pocket. So, I got really good at that. And I pickpocketed Stavros' cigarettes one day, because we're in the same department. I see him all the time. He's always harassing me in my classroom, you know, like, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get him back. I took his cigarettes. I don't remember who was in that particular class. I don't know if it's any of you, because I can't remember, but I can tell you one thing. I'm in the middle of a class. He must have found out that I took his cigarettes. He went around asking Georgia Vatusis if it was her. She has gone home. She was here a while ago. So she's not here at the moment. But he found out it was one of us. We were the young, you know, crazy teachers who would do things like that. And so it wasn't her. He found out it had to be me. So he came into my classroom with a squirt bottle. I'm a first or second year teacher. Just picture this. I'm very, I'm still kind of nervous. He takes his squirt bottle. He starts squirting me head to toe in front of 30 students. 30 students were all there. And then he kept following me, so I got cornered eventually. And he was squirting me head to toe. He was putting the squirt bottle in parts of my clothing and my hair. My makeup was running. Anyway, the kids were just, I could not finish my lesson, obviously. They were laughing the whole time, but this is what we used to put up in our department. And I stuck around, and some people left, some people, stuck around in our department for a while. Some people have retired. It came time for Stavros to retire. About 9 years ago, I was up here in this exact same spot giving a very long, sad speech. And because the principal had asked me to, because I was the assistant head by then, it was his assistant head, but he used to call me a slave. Please don't take that personally. I was a slave for many years, 15 years. Finally, he, that day, he retired. He was still going at it, Eventually, I ended up applying for the headship, but he ensured I was going to get the headship using his magic in some ways. I mean, eventually I had to go through the whole interview process as well, but after all this, he said to me, I'm glad you're the head, but I don't know why they hired a biologist for the science department. It's not even a science. I mean, he's still throwing all these jokes. Anyway, to make a long story short, he wanted me to become head. He pushed me. I will never be able to fill his shoes. I never could. I never will. I never wanted to, but he entrusted me with that job, and he told me, you become head and you stay head. I'm still the head, and I don't know how long that'll last. But to be very honest, with all the difficulties with COVID, one of the reasons I refused to leave, in the back of my head, it's always because of him. And I will miss him dearly. I really will. And I'm really glad to see everyone here.
But Stavros knew that Pretty was going to take on and help the kids. Not that the other teachers didn't, but he and her had such a relationship for helping the students. And he would, what you're saying, that if students had difficulties, it wasn't good with the emotional part, but he knew that the student had a problem, so he would take the student by the hand and lead him or her to Pretty's class and say, here, deal with it. And so the kids would have to, he'd never go to guidance, he would just go to Pretty's class. And so in the middle of a lesson, she had to deal with an emotional situation or a crisis. But that's how he and Pretty kind of took all of the kids under their wings, and he made the right choice. Thank you. He made the right choice with you too. So we'll go to that story then. I want to just share quickly how Stavros came. Where did he come from? Because you have stories to tell about him, but let's go back to 1977. No? So Stavros came to Canada to study physics, graduate studies. So he did his physics degree in Greece, and he was to come here. He had a choice to go to Edinburgh, Kansas City, the University of Kansas, or Dalhousie. So the plane took him to Halifax. And this was a student who didn't know how to cook, not boil an egg, nothing. So at the time, he was renting a room on very close to the restaurant where I was working on the weekends. And my dad was the chef the cook, and it was an open area so that you could see down in the restaurant. So Stavros would come in, and he would order, and then I'd give him the bill, and he would pay, but no tip. Okay, fine. It happened one weekend because I was working weekends. I was at University Dalhousie at the time. So this started to happen often. You know, I'd work hard, bring, and then no tip. So I got fed up one day. And when he came the next time in, I said to the owner, I'm not serving him. And I ran to the back, to the kitchen. Now, my dad was upstairs, and he must have taken a liking to Stavros before I even saw anything in Stavros, because his dishes, his meals were overflowing. It wasn't the normal, regular, you know, order. So I knew my dad was taking care of him. So the lady comes to the back and says, no, she goes to him, and he goes, I don't want you. He had a very thick accent. I want her. Her. There's the her. So she comes back and says, you need to go serve this customer. She didn't know anything about us and what I had a beef with this man. So I was forced to go one more time. Well, when the bill came again, he paid, no tip. So I turn around and I say to him, in Canada, we tip, just like that. And I walk away. And then as I'm walking away, he goes, hey. So I turn around, and he goes, here. He takes out a quarter or a nickel, I don't know which one at the time, and he throws it across the table. And I see it rolling across, and it falls down. I declared war at that point. Now, he's from Athens, I'm from Sparta, and if anybody who knows history, yes, okay, well, the Spartans are going to put up a good fight. So I was upset with him. I never wanted to see him again. Now, he needed to take one English course, because back in the day, you needed to have a language. So he asked the owner, do you know of anybody that can help me with an English course? Because he was just doing the sciences. So the lady caught on, must have liked what she saw. She wanted me and Stavros to be together. So she says, I have somebody for you. Someone can help you. Didn't divulge a name, didn't even say that's her over there, the one that. So she made arrangements separately for Stavros to come meet me at the front of the Dalhousie Library. And so she told him a time, told me, and as I'm walking towards the library, he was first, always on time. So as I'm walking, I start to slow my pace down because I thought, oh my God, look, who? It's him? I need to help him? So then, okay, I said, okay, let me take you through the library, 4 floors. So we walked through the library. I showed him where everything was. He turns around and says, what? You're not going to help me? I said, what do you mean? I'm in my last year of education. I'm taking my courses. How can I help you? So silly me, I'm always helping. Papers, yeah. And so at the end, when the report card time came, he got his report card, and he came and found me, and he was furious. I said, what's wrong? What did you get? He goes, you ruined my reputation. Okay, I said, what? I got a B, I think it was a B+. B+, yes. And I go, what do you mean that's good? No, he goes, I'm a straight A student. And he was always straight A for all his life, except for that one course. So I said, okay, buddy, this is enough. So again, somehow we met. I started to like him. After all of that, I don't know why, I should have walked away. In fact, I had a job in Greece. I was going to go and start my private tutoring school in Sparta. It was all arranged. I was just finish my degree, get out of here. So one day in the elevator coming down from the library, I kind of popped the question. I said, I'm interested in you. Because he wasn't doing anything, and it was like May was coming up, school was going to be over, we would have parted. You know what he does? In an elevator you're cornered, and it was just the two of us, he started to laugh. Laugh his head off. I was embarrassed. I didn't know where to hide. So I bursted out of there. I went home, never wanted to see him again. And I was getting ready to leave. One day he comes to the house. Now, my mother did not know, my parents, my mother did not know that I was dating because that was just a big no-no. In fact, she had 9 arranged marriages for me. And I said no to all 9. I picked Stavros. So Stavros comes to the door with a box of Swiss chocolate. Larger, like it was, you know, your door frame, it was that wide, just enough because he loves sweets. We know he says snacks. So he came in, and then obviously I melted, not the chocolate. And that's it. We began our journey together. But it was difficult, you know, but I stuck it through, and I've never looked back, 44 years. Thank you. No. So, thank you all for sharing. Thank you for coming. Please, have some more food. Eat Greek, you know. I don't have lamb, but please enjoy yourselves, and we're good until 3 o'clock, so please mix and mingle. I haven't seen a lot of you because, you know, it's an amazing crowd, but I do want to connect with every single one of you before you leave. Okay, so please find me, or I will work my way around. Okay, thank you again. God bless. Where's Rachel? Rachel. Okay, sorry, we need Rachel. Where's Rachel? I haven't seen Rachel before we break out. Because
There's a reason you haven't.
Okay.
Don't bring her up in front of everyone
Yes,
here.
yes. No, αυτό θέλουμε.
Are you coming up or what? Yeah.
No?
Yeah, she
Yes?
is, but
Okay,
with
let me go get.
chorusing.
Okay.